That was close.
Yeah, close to me because I'm wearing these glasses, but that clearly hit your fucking face. Welcome to another Horror Franchise Wednesday. Let's talk about Friday the 13th 3D. Well, one quick thing before I go any further, because I'm sure somebody out there is reading this shirt and they're getting offended. Yes, it says no lives matter because it's Jason fucking Voorhees. He kills people in wheelchairs. In this movie, we get the first pregnant victim, if she really was pregnant. He kills everybody, doesn't discriminate, so this shirt offends you. There's the dislike button. Here's the suicide hotline because you're obviously a miserable, depressed person and you need help. So, now that that's out of the way, yeah, offensive shirt, fuck yourself. Let's get into the review. Alright, let's talk about this movie. But first, before I go into my likes and dislikes, let's quickly talk about the movie itself. Friday the 13th, 3D, for those of you who don't know anything about the behind the scenes. This movie came out in 1982 and it took E.T. off the number one spot at the box office. And this movie is the first one with Frank Mancuso Jr. as the producer. And this is the second movie now and last one to be directed by Steve Miner. And this is, of course, the one that introduces the iconic hockey mask. I don't have one right now, but it's on my shirt. That's why I'm wearing it. So the original story of this movie was supposed to be like a Halloween 2 or a Cult of Chucky, where the killer stalks the victim from the previous movie. They were going to bring back Ginny, but I guess she said no, Amy Steele, so that's unfortunate. And they replaced her with Chris, who was in Sweet 16, played by Dana Kimmell. And Richard Brooker is now Jason. They replaced Warrington Gillette and Steve Dash. And this one is one of my favorite Jasons. Rest in peace, Richard Brooker. He had a history in the circus. That's fun to know. One thing about this movie that sets it apart from the first two is that this is the first time they started to build sets and shoot in Los Angeles or in California somewhere. And you can tell, like, there's scenes where you can see, like, palm trees when they're picking up a Vera. And that's a little bit of a letdown. I wish they would have stayed in the New England states that keep that look, to keep the continuity of the look of Crystal Lake, because you get to this one and you look at the pond, you look at the scenery, you're like, that doesn't look like Crystal Lake to me, and it's a little bit of a bummer. Now, this movie used brand new 3D technology. Apparently, this is like the first one to use this technology at the time, and because they were spending so much money trying to get theaters to play this movie with this technology, they had to use special projectors. It hurt them in the long run with the button, what the money they made back. It didn't really, pay off that much because they're spending so much money trying to get 3D glasses out there and get the projectors to run the film the way that they wanted it to. And I counted the 3D shots in this movie. There's over like 30 3D moments in the film. Now, we all know this is when Jason gets the hockey mask, and when they were making this movie, they knew that they didn't want to use the bag head. It wasn't working that well. I guess they just didn't like it, and they're like, what are we going to use? And I guess there was just hockey players on set, somebody in the 3D department, the 3D supervisor and his team. I guess they had like a hockey team going on or whatnot. They were hockey fans, and one of them had a hockey mask, and that's how we got Jason the hockey mask. One weird little fact is that they, for some reason, just changed Rick's name to from Derek to Rick just because they wanted a one-syllable name for Chris to yell at the end. It's a weird reason to change the name. Now, Stan Winston, who I believe was supposed to work on part two, but didn't, he actually worked on this movie to make the look of Jason, but they never used it. They used it in an alternate ending that they cut from the film, and it's an alternate ending where Chris runs up to the cabin. She thinks Rick's in there, and then she opens the door. There's Jason in the Stan Winston version look, and he chops off Chris's head, but then it's a dream sequence, just like the other alternate ending, the ending that we do see. They're all dream sequences. But that's interesting to know that Stan Winston finally did get to make a Jason look, but we never really got to see it. And I'm kind of glad we did, because when you look at his Jason look, I don't think it's as good as the one we do see in the final product. Quick little fact about a couple of people in this movie. You got Debbie, who went on to become a journalist, and I think she worked on the O.J. Simpson case. And then you got Larry Zerner, or the guy Shelley, who gives Jason his hockey mask. He's now a lawyer. And this movie was supposed to be the last one. they do that so much in this franchise. This was supposed to be the last one. Part 4 was supposed to be the last one. Jason Goes to Hell. And they were so like confident that this was the last one that on set when they killed Jason at the end, they had like a birthday cake that said like Happy Death Day to Jason. That's how confident they were. Like, this is it. But of course, we got more. And the working title for this film was Crystal Japan. This was the start of the tradition of having the working title being named after like a David Bowie album. I forget the other ones, but like 4, 5, and 6, and like 7, they were all named after like a David Bowie album. All right, I did my best to get through those facts quick. So now let's get into the movie itself. This takes place the same weekend, like 2 days later. The opening is like the next day, and then the main characters that we follow is like 2 days after part 2. So we got this new group of kids are going to the Higgins Lodge or whatever, Higgins cabin, to hang out for the weekend. It's no longer camp counselors, so that's no longer a thing, and they don't do that again until part 6, so no more counselors, and they're getting picked off one by Jason. There's your plot synopsis. Not much plot to these movies at all, and let's get into the things that I like about Friday the 13th Part 3. I really like Richard Brooker as Jason. He is a big step up from Warrington Gillette and Steve Dash. I like the brute. He's such a brute. I like his physicality. There's some little things about his performance I don't like. I don't know. I just don't like just little nitpicks. Very nitpicky shit. Just the way he like strolls down the dock after he kills Vera. Just like, I don't like how like overly big his shoulders are. Like, I don't know, you can tell that it's just a bunch of makeup or whatnot, but I like this look better than the last one, definitely. I like that he gets the mask. It's iconic. And I think the kills in this movie are a lot better than part 1 and 2, especially 2, because 2 got cut by the MPAA. In this one, there's not much gore, but the kills are a lot more creative because they're trying to make them all 3D. You get the harpoon to the eye, the eyeball popping out. I like the opening theme song when you see Pamela's head and the words are coming out. The opening theme song is iconic also at this point. There's even like a band that plays that song at their concerts. I'm not sure what the name of that band is, but I've seen footage of it. There's like a band that's like in love with that song. And the final chase in this movie is the best of the 3 so far. Chris does not fuck around. She is a decent final girl, one of the best, a little underrated. You don't hear about it too much. People always say Jenny, but I think Chris is a damn good final girl. She's not strong mentally, because of what happens at the end. She's a little batshit crazy, but man, does she not fuck around. She gets that knife, she stabs him in the hand, stabs him in the knee, she fucking puts a rope around his neck, she's kicking him out of the barn, sticks an axe to the freaking face, not the shoulder like Jenny. Go for the head like Chris, all right? Take notes, Jenny. This is how you do it. So, final chase, tense as hell, great, love it. Decent final girl. Performance is shit, but that would lead me to my negatives, but I also like the look of Jason. Like, the look of Jason in this one, again, big step up from part 2. This is how Jason should look. It looks the closest to the Mongoloid look as a child. Unfortunately, the rest is just negatives. I do not like the long-ass recap in the beginning. I've watched all these movies, and I can tell you without a doubt that this one, next to part 2, has the longest recap. They play the entire ending of part 2. It's like, we don't need that. We don't. Okay? No one's going to part 3 not seeing part 1 and 2. And if they are, they're idiots. All right? Screw those people. We don't need a 6-minute recount. All right? It's almost 6 minutes. It's fucking crazy. And the 3D shots do not age well. You can see the strings. They feel forced. There's over 30 of them. I counted this time. There's no point because you can't watch it in 3D. No one's going to watch this with those stupid red and blue glasses, especially me, because I only have like one good eye. My left eye, you probably don't see it. There's a big old white cloud right over the center. I can't see shit out of that eye that good. So me, I just watched the movie in one big old red filter, and it's annoying. So the fact that there's not a good, awesome, like modern technology, shit that you would like see at the movies where they give you the real shit and it's clear, no red and blue shit, like the fact that that doesn't exist is a shame. And if it does, put a link to it in the comments below where I can buy a 3D TV with those 3D glasses and this working with those glasses. That would be amazing. But because there isn't something like that I'm aware of, it's annoying seeing shit. Let's push this at the camera and then hold it there for 5 seconds. It's not as egregious as Jaws 3D. That one's a lot worse, but it's annoying. It's just how long shit lingers and how forced it is just to make it 3D. And this movie feels the most B movie of all of them, like, because of the acting. It is awful. The dialogue, the characters, they're the most stereotypical of them all. Stereotypes to the point that, you know, the stoners, they're barefoot the whole time. Like, the guy's barefoot in every scene. They're smoking pot in almost every scene. They're just throwaway characters. And I know that's to be expected of these movies, but it's the most obvious at this point. Like, in part one, the characters weren't that great, but there was a couple that were somewhat okay. Like, you know, you got the prankster, you got Kevin Bacon because he's Kevin Bacon. But in part two especially, I like part two, better characters, way better. In this one, it's a downgrade in characters. You don't care about them. They're stereotypical archetypes, just, you know, checking the boxes. You gotta get the stoners, and then there's a random biker gang, which just doesn't feel like it fits in the Friday the 13th movie, but okay. But the acting is just awful. Like, way worse than I remembered. It is bad. No defending the acting in this movie. It's pretty bad. And I hate that end scare. It makes no sense. One, like, Pamela, she has her fucking head back on her head, like, or on her neck, like it's her head's back. Okay. Because it's a dream, I guess it makes sense. But why? Why would this woman, Chris, be dreaming of Pamela, a woman she's never met? And it's just a forced final scare. And oh my God, I absolutely despise the fact that she tells that story about her getting raped. That is not Jason. Jason does not rape anybody if that's what's implied. And he doesn't just carry them home and lay them in bed. He murders. Straight up, just murders people. That's it. All right? In this movie, he's not that good at murder in this one. He, like Ali, he comes back later on, so I guess he failed to kill him. So maybe he did fail to kill her. But she woke up in bed. So did it happen? She recognizes him, like, oh my gosh, you! When he takes the mask off for a second. I just hate that story. If I could, like, make my cut of this movie, I would take that scene out immediately. And the pacing of this movie is the weakest of the three so far. I mean, I've watched all these movies now. Like I said, I marathoned them. And I can tell you that this one has the weakest pacing of the whole franchise. It's just, like, from the moment that the opening credits and kills are done to, like, the biker is, like, a good, like, 15 minutes or so. It drags here and there. We see them get to the camp. They're putting their clothes away. They're going to the lake. They're going to the barn. It's just Rick talking about sex for like 10 minutes straight. And then once the bikers are killed, it takes a good like 20 minutes or so before Vera gets the harpoon to the eye. It just takes forever. And it wouldn't feel long if the dialogue was better and the acting was better. Like, you don't notice a pace dragging if the acting's good and the dialogue is good. But because the acting is so poor and these characters aren't that interesting, it drags quite a bit. So that's a shame. I never noticed that as much before until this viewing. The pacing is definitely the weakest in this one. So final thoughts. I still enjoy this movie as a whole. It's a damn good Friday the 13th movie compared to some later on. You know, once you get to like part 8 and part 9, you definitely grow an appreciation for part 3. It's nowhere near the best. I used to think it was. It was always like top 5 for me, but now I would probably put it lower than that as of this viewing. But it's got a good Jason. It's got a great final chase, which I've noticed that all these movies have, is that final chase with the final girl or final couple. Great final chase. Great demise to Jason in this one. The iconic axe mark that gets put in his head. So I enjoy this movie. I just wish that it could have been tightened up a little bit better, you know, just shorten some scenes and get better acting. If the acting was better, the movie would be, it would not suffer as much if the acting was better. So that's unfortunate. So when it comes to Friday the 13th 3D, this is still a slasher that I think is worth going out and buying. Alright, I'm going to be as quick as I can because I got some more shit I want to talk about part 2. I didn't get to say this in my last review, so I'm going to be as quick as possible before I go into my spoiler discussion about this film. A, why did Jason poke one hole in his bag? Is he just trying to make things harder for himself? He has 2 eyeballs. One's a little droopy, but whatever. Why is he only poking one hole in his mask? It doesn't seem like a smart thing. Why did Jason wait 2 months to kill Alice? I wish they would have just said like 2 days or 1 day. Like if he just would have stalked her the night that she killed Pamela, it would have made more sense if he found her that way, because the story is he saw his mom die that day. It would make more sense if he stalked Alice and killed her the same night or the next night. Why did he wait 2 months? I mean, it just makes no sense. I would prefer that it was the same weekend that he killed her. And then one thing I want to note is that this is the only Jason movie until the remake that Jason uses booby traps. I marathoned all of them to prepare for this review. I watched all of them, and this is part 2 was the only one until the remake that he had a booby trap. He had the rope system that hung Scott. So for those of you that complain in the remake, like Jason doesn't booby trap and blah 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 and run, whatever. Yes, he does. And where did he hide Vicky's body? He drags her down the stairs, and then Paul and Ginny come in right after that. Where did he hide her body? We see where he hides all these other bodies, but where did he hide Vicky? All right, just curious. And evidence that the ending is a dream. I want to point this out, okay, because I'm still on the fence. Was it a dream, the end, or was it not? The only evidence that it is not a dream and that Paul did die is Steve Miner said so, and Paul's still missing at the end. Paul, where's Paul? And no one answers her. And the bow on the dog is a different color, so that is like a small indicator that maybe Muffin, there was 2 dogs, but why wouldn't that be already established? So that just doesn't make sense. How is Muffin still alive? So the bow on the dog being a different color might be an indicator that it's a different dog, but that's a stretch. And I guess Jason still having the machete and no bag is like, because that's the way she left him, it would make sense, like, if he's attacking her and that's really happening, that he would look like that. So that's really the only evidence that it's not a dream and Paul died is that, but the evidence that it is a dream and that all that's bullshit, he never jumped through the window, is Muffin the dog, if that really was Muffin. Muffin clearly died, so that's evidence. The body count in this movie, part 3, the newscaster played by Steve Miner, he says 8 people, 8 bodies were found. If you do the death count, excluding Alice, don't count her because that was like 5 years previous. They say 8 bodies were found, 8 people were killed, and Paul would be number 9. So that doesn't add up. Jason, in the beginning of this movie, part 3, walks away with the machete no longer in his shoulder, and for some reason, that big-ass wound is like not even a problem in this entire movie. He's picking up shit. He's killing people. It's not even hurting him no more, which is bullshit. But yeah, he just immediately, from where he was left off at the end of part 2, next to his mom's head, takes the machete out. And how could that be if he had the machete in his shoulder when he's jumping out the window? Doesn't line up. And he's bald now. And he had half his hair at the end of part 2. So if that was real, it doesn't line up if he's bald now. And because of that whole half bald, half hair thing, as a kid, I always thought there was 2 Jasons jumping through the window, one that was bald and one that had hair fully on the whole head. It always confused the shit out of me. And so yeah, evidence that that's all a dream versus not a dream. That's my case. What do you think? Was it a dream or was it not a dream? Where do you lie? Let me know. All right, let's get through this spoiler discussion. Let's really dissect all the little stupid things that I noticed on this viewing, all the dumb shit, and all the iconic scenes. Let's talk about them. So, 5.5 minute recap, not necessary. Jason, like I said, he takes the machete out, so that ruins that theory about the ending being a dream or not. And we find out, and we go to the Crystal Lake store, so this is still near Crystal Lake. I'm not sure how these 2 store owners have lived for so long, but today's not their lucky day. And we see that Jason does get new clothing. Like, we actually see a shot of him in the overalls and the hillbilly outfit, and then he gets the new clothing. That's something I never really caught as a kid. So it wasn't until much later on in life that I was like, oh, that's how he gets the new clothes. It doesn't explain what happened to his hair. Where's all the other hair on the half of the head? Like, did he have time to shave? I'm not sure how or when he did that. And then we see Steve Miner. He's on the TV, and he says there's 8 bodies. There should be 9. If Paul's dead, there should be 9, not 8. And so, yeah, Jason grabs the clothes, and Harold, this place has the worst sanitation, the worst fucking employee ever, and that is Harold. He is eating the peanuts, he's eating the donut, he has fucking rabbits that he puts that are in like the fruit and like vegetable aisle, like on the actual products. So do not shop at Crystal Lake store. You will get a disease, most definitely, or sick as hell. And then we get the worst 3D effect of the entire movie is the snake. You see the string in the mouth and like hooked in there and like the string being pulled. It looks horrendous. It makes you laugh. Why did we have to listen to Harold take a shit? You hear like 6 droppings of shit. It's disgusting. And then when he gets the meat cleaver to the chest, you can see he's wearing like it almost looks like he's wearing a bulletproof vest underneath his shirt. Like something to make him look fatter. He's wearing like a pad. It's so obvious. And then the knitting needle through the back of the head, out the mouth. It's like going towards the camera a little bit. It's kind of hard to see. And then, we meet the characters. It's the next day. It's Sunday the 15th. And Shelly's pulling a prank. I'm not sure like why he thought that prank would be successful. They clearly know that he's with them. Like, it's an odd time to pull a prank. And then you see like palm trees in the background. I think I was talking about this earlier. This is clearly not New Jersey where it's supposed to take place. And I'm not sure what the hell they were thinking setting up Shelly with Vera. Did they think that date was going to go well? Like, they're setting that up for disaster. And I like how their first go-to explanation for where the smoke's coming from. They're like, it's a fire! The van's on fire. Not, maybe it's the stoners that are with us. Like, they know there's 2 stoners. Like, it's such a stupid little thing to talk about, but I was just like, really? It's on fire? No, it's smoke from the 2 bong smoking people in the background. Like, it's clearly marijuana smoke, you fucking morons. And then they start eating the pot, which is disgusting. And then we get a new Ralph, the guy with the eyeball. I'm not sure whose eyeball that's supposed to be. It ain't Rick's. That's not until much later on. So I'm not sure where the eyeball came from. And Jason's just mutilating bunnies in this movie. There's a dead bunny in the cage. There's a dead bunny on the road. I guess that's where he's getting his food. Because he knew that the food in that store was contaminated. He was like, oh shit, they ain't sanitary around here. So I ain't eating that. I'll eat the rabbit instead. And we get to Higgins Haven. And there's fake out scares. That's the one thing about the score in this movie. You see, Harry Manfredini used the score when the killer was around in part 1, but in this one, there's a clear shot of Rick, and it's like, Jason music. It's like, that's not Jason, clearly. So I don't like the way the music's used in this movie either. I wish they would have just used it like they did in part 1 when the killer was around. There's a fake out scare with Shelly, another fake out scare with Shelly, there's a fake out scare with Rick, so on and so forth. It's annoying. And then Shelly, he's pulling his prank. He has the axe in his head, and we hear a woman scream, and they run. She runs upstairs, and she finds Shelly by himself. Like, she's the first one to see Shelly, like, dead. Who was screaming? That was not Shelly screaming. Was that supposed to be Shelly's scream? Because there's no fucking way that it was. So then Vera and Shelly go to the convenience store, and I like how somehow the woman who works there just knew that Vera had food stamps. She's like, we don't accept food stamps. How the fuck does she know? And she was right. And I like how they're playing the opening theme song to the movie in the PA system, like it's playing over the store. And then we meet the biker gang, and they're shitheads. You want them to die. They're cannon fodder and assholes. And then, so Shelly runs over their motorcycles, and the guy's pissed off, like he like destroyed them. Clearly not, because when they get back to the camp, or, the Haven, whatever, not even 2 minutes later, they're there. Somehow used their bikes that were destroyed, clearly not, and quietly, like they have the world's quietest motorcycles that they drove and somehow snuck to their, Higgins Haven without making a sound. Bullshit. And, like, how did they not know they were being tailed? Again, whatever. I just have to point these things out, like, because they're there immediately. Like, they pull up, they have a quick interaction with Rick, and they go inside, boom, there's Loco making that bark sound, woof, and then, like, they're trying to be so quiet, and then Foxy goes to the barn, she's being as loud as possible, she gets these, like, things, she's, like, banging everything around, and gets the pitchfork to the throat. That's what she deserves. And then, like, they're gonna, like, light the barn on fire. That's what's implied. You know, when they get the gas into the cans, and Ollie's telling Loco, like, all right, go to the barn, start pouring it. Like, they're gonna light the barn on fire just because their bikes got knocked over. That's their idea of getting payback. Like, now we're even, now that you lost your entire fucking barn because you put a dent in one of our motorcycles. Fucking, that's just crazy. And then the funniest scene, one of the funniest scenes in this movie because of the editing, is the yo-yo scene. It's my opening joke of this film, of this review. There's the scene, like the yo-yo, it keeps like going close to her face, and then it smacks her right on the fucking nose, clear as day, no argument whatsoever. It clearly hit her face, and then she goes, "Oh, that was close." What do you mean that was close? It hit your fucking face. Like, how much closer could that yo-yo get to hitting your face? Yeah, and then Chris, she tells her story, and that story can fuck itself. That story did not happen. Bullshit. He doesn't rape people, and he doesn't take them home. It makes no sense whatsoever. So, yeah, and then Ollie, he goes in the barn. He gets knocked out. Jason doesn't do a good job of taking care of him because he comes back later on. Doesn't do much. But he's hitting him in the head with like a hammer or something like 4 or 5 times in a row. So how he's not dead, I don't get it. Why is there an outhouse when there's clearly a bathroom in the cabin that they're staying at? The stoner goes outside barefoot because he's a hippie to an outhouse. It just doesn't make sense why you would need that along with the bathroom that you already have. So just a little dumb thing I wanted to point out. And why does Vera still have Shelly's wallet hours later? She gets it from him in the store. He throws it at the camera. And then later on, when she's at the dock, she pulls out his wallet and drops it in the water like a clumsy idiot. Why does she still have his wallet? That doesn't make sense. And this doesn't make sense. So apparently Shelly is the slowest bleeder of them all. Like, he gets his throat slit, and then between that happening and him bleeding out, Jason has time to go kill Vera at the dock, shoots the harpoon right through her eye, slowly walks over to the cabin, goes upstairs, kills Andy, split down the middle, and then we get that aftermath shot of him like split open, awesome, and she's like reading Fangoria, reading like about Tom Savini, and then she gets the Kevin Bacon death, stabbed right through the chest, looks great. He has time to do that, and then go kill the stoner, throw him up against the electrical panel. He electrocutes, and I like that shot of him behind the stoner when the power comes back on. Tall, menacing, throws him. He has time for all that, and then he pops up to the other stoner chick, and that's when he finally is bleeding out. Like, there was probably, like, in universe time, at least 20 minutes or so. He is the world's slowest bleeder. How did he not bleed out? Like, from this, like, all the way. Just, there's no fucking way. How did it take him that long to bleed out from a throat slit? But I like, she thinks it's a prank. Like, cut it out, Shelly. Like, and then she realizes that it's real, and we get the best performance in the movie. Shelly's dead! Oh my god! Her performance makes me laugh. It's so awful. She's the worst of them all.
Andy! Debbie! Shelly's dead!
I like how Debbie says she's pregnant like so many times. She keeps beating that drum like, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant. That's what happens when you're pregnant. You have to piss a lot. And then, and she is being offered pot. She's like, no, I'm pregnant. And then Andy offers her beer later on. And she's like, sure, I'll have a beer, even though I'm pregnant. That's the 80s, I guess. People didn't give a shit back then. They're like, sure, I'll drink, even though I'm pregnant. We get kind of a similar moment that we get in the first two, the bloody axe on the bed, the bloody sheets in part 2. In this one, Jason, for some reason, turned on the water to the bathtub and took the stoner chick's sweater off and threw it in the bathtub. So now there's a bloody bathtub. So I'm noticing like little things that get carried over into each film. And this one, also carried over from the first two, is somebody being thrown through a window. Rick gets killed, and he gets thrown through the window. And I also noticed a door bursting thing, that Jason likes to burst through doors. He does it in this one. This is the first one. In her dream sequence, he bursts through the door. In part 4, in part 5, in part 6, maybe 7, I'm not sure. But he keeps bursting through doors. So that's another thing that gets becomes like a little theme throughout these movies. And So yeah, then Rick, I like Rick's death, and I like that shot of like her calling out his name, Rick, and then he's like over here struggling. And then we get a little callback to Steve Christie's body in part one, falling from a tree. Loco, his body just falls on cue to scare Dana Kimmell's character, and then this is when the final chase starts. This is when shit gets fucking real. Like, this is like the best scene in the movie. Like, the final chase in this movie kicks ass. She runs inside. Jason throws the body through the window. He steps in, mask on, holding an axe, chases her upstairs, and she does some smart things. She dumps the books on him. She hides in the closet, takes that knife out of Debbie's body, stabs his hand. She's like swinging at his face, but he's dodging everything. And then she stabs him in the leg. Like, fuck it. If I can't get your face, I'll get your leg. Like, smart. And then she runs off and she busts out the window. She jumps out. She gets in the car, but they took the gas from earlier, so I like that. That's at least explained. I like that. Like, because in the other movies, it would just be like, oh, the car doesn't work because it's convenient. In this one, it's explained why the car's not working, because of those dipshit bikers. But, he gets her through the window of the car. She rolls it up. He busts his face through the fucking window. They gets chased to the barn. She puts the rope. She's like hiding on the beam, but then she like slips. All tense, all awesome. I love this final chase. She hangs his ass, but for some reason that's not doing anything. Like, he's hanging for like a good minute, but then he's just like, psych, I gotcha. And this is a theory. This scene raises questions. Is Jason purposely revealing his face, or is he taking the mask off on accident because he's trying to get that rope off of his neck? That's the way I look at it. I don't think he's like, hey, look, remember me from like 3 years ago when I raped you? No. To me, it's like, I'm trying to get the rope off my neck, and it kind of bumped my mask off my face, because then he puts it back down. And it was just written in there because we needed her to see his face because of her story. She needed to be like, oh my gosh, it's you. I don't think he was purposely revealing his face. That's how I see that. So, yeah, she hangs his ass, sticks the fucking axe right through his face. We get the iconic axe mark that gets carried over into all of them, including part 8, which makes no fucking sense. Why would that guy have a mask with an axe mark in it? Makes no sense. And then, yeah, she killed him. She goes in the canoe, just like part 1. They carry that over. She just gets in the canoe, and she's in this lake that looks like a pond. It's ugly and, not swimmable at all. No one would go in there. And then we get the fake out scare, but before that we see like Jason, he bursts through the door, he's like in the window, like he makes like a hissing noise or something. And there's clearly like a string. If you look closely, there's a string on the boat. Somebody's like on the other side pulling it. Like it's like a fishing line or something. Something like that. And yeah, Pamela with the head. Screw that. I hate that. And that's the end of the movie. She's crazy. She's apparently on set, they didn't give her any lines. They're like, just do whatever comes to you. And she was like, okay. She's just like fucking insane. That's her character now. So she's not the strongest final girl, but she makes some smarter decisions than Ginny. Like, she fights back a lot more, just a little bit more in my opinion than Ginny. But Ginny, at least, she still has it in the end. Chris, not so much. She's crazy. So, and then we get the final shot of the lake, just like part 1. That's the, callback to part 1, and it's over. Now let's go into my Mr. Hat award ceremony. My favorite character in this movie is Shelly, because he gives Jason his hockey mask. And the hottest chick in this movie is Vera. I think Chris is cute as well, but I'll go with Vera. And the Mr. Hanky Award for shittiest actor in this movie goes to the stoner chick. Her screaming at the end sealed the deal. My favorite shot in this movie is the shot of Chris calling out for Rick, and he's being like smothered on the other side of the building. I love that shot. Jason's in the shadow. And the Funny Bone Award goes to this scene right here.
Sure. We'll talk. Bitch.
And the Clap Award for Best Scene goes to the attack in the cabin with Jason and Chris when he throws that body through the window. Everything in that cabin from that moment on, I really enjoyed. So that's my favorite scene. And the Mr. Hat Award for Best Kill in this movie will go to Rick. This is an awesome kill that stuck out to me as a kid. It always freaked me out. And the Mr. Twig Award for Worst Kill will go to Shelly. It does not take an hour to bleed out. And out of all the characters we would want to see die on screen, it would be this character. And those are my thoughts on Friday the 13th Part 3. 3D! Woo! Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Hopefully I didn't leave anything out. I feel like I talked about everything. I think I got through all my notes. So those are all my little nitpicks, all my criticisms. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. Where do you put this in your ranking? Where do you put the ranking of your final girls? How do you like Chris? Do you like her? Do you hate her? All in the comments below. Let's talk about this movie. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button, become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month to request movie reviews, and you can become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.